and we'll get started here in right now. Actually, 7:01. It just moved on me. Let me put my TV glasses on. Uh, and welcome everybody to the Zoom Rock Room. See if we have any new names showing up here. A couple of new invites went out. Two people, and well, I had a good shower today. I was singing in the shower, having a good time, relaxing, and I was doing real good until I got soap in my mouth, and then it became a soap opera. And five ants had a house outside of our house. They uh they invited five other ants to come in and move in with them, and now they are tenants or 10 ants. 10 ants. You have to say it slowly anyway. So I'll throw that paper away real quick there. Okay, Renee, what's going on in your life?
Busy, busy, busy. It is spring in the park, so no rest for the wicked, I guess.
School kids, school kids, and
Yes.
school kids, right?
I did teach 300 plus eighth graders all about soils and the parts of soils in the pouring rain last week, so none of them complained.
And you were proud of that too, because you made it interesting, didn't you?
I felt like I learned something from Jerry and they didn't look bored, so yay.
All right. Let me tell you about an experiment that somebody demonstrated. Um, they a professor had about 50 students in his class, and he gave each student a balloon, and they could blow it up. And while it was blowing up, they wrote their name on the side of the balloon, with a Sharpie, and he asked them to deflate the balloons and throw it on the floor on a pile. So they did that, and then he said, "Now you got 5 minutes to go find your balloon." And after 5 minutes, nobody found their balloon. And then he said, "Okay, just pick up a balloon in front of you, that's by you, pick it up, and give it to the person that whose name is on it." And that happened really, really quick. And his point of this experiment was, if we go looking for peace ourselves, we won't find it. But if you have the help of others to find peace, it will happen real quick. So our Zoom rock room, we kind of see that as a friendship ring. Okay, and we are our friendships, and I'll have to mail everybody out a balloon. Actually, thinking of that, I will let you know that we will be mailing the prizes out from the trivia game, the last event. I haven't done that yet. They're actually sitting behind me here. So we did get the prizes from our friends at Retro Rocks. So speaking of that, let's get going here and get the show on the road. We do have a program revision tonight. Paul Fegley, who is in the room, is not able to talk real well tonight, so he's asked to be doing his Klondike program next time, and I'm kind of doing a program which a couple of you I know saw in Waynesboro a few weeks ago, uh, on South Mountain in Waynesboro. So, and actually, I've asked Renee to do the intro tonight. So, you take it away there, Renee.
Yay. Well, welcome aboard for the 145th episode of Zoom Rock Room. We are fast approaching that 150th, and we're gonna have a big party or something. Get Jerry to bust out the party hats. Hey, I'm Renee Widener, the co-host, and of course, Jerry Jones from Jones Geological Services is our host and presenter tonight. Maybe he'll click to the next slide. There we go. We're sponsored by the Lara Architecture out in Arizona. Get a chance, drop them an email so they know that you're paying attention and that their money's going to a good place. Buttonwood Nature Center. You can find them on Facebook. They just put up their list of summer happenings, children's story times, camps, 1, 2, and 5 day camps. There's some summer Saturday morning hikes and things. They actually have a rocks and relic camp if you have I think it was kids 5 to 12, something like that. It's a 1 day camp. That looks kind of fun. They're doing good things over there. They have met their capital campaign, but every little bit helps. So Retro Rocks over in Lancaster County, who was kind enough to give us our prizes for nature trivia last week. They just got in a shipment of Labradorite. So if you're into the pretty bluish green rock, that's a good one that they have tons of right now. They also have jewelry, scents. Oh, they got some spring rain soap right now, CDs, old vinyl, pretty much a wonderful mix of things.
Yep, they do.
You can't go wrong with a tie dye in my book.
And they got the choices. Yes.
Redline telescopes over in outside of York, PA, with that Wade Kraut.
Kraut. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the name right. He has a wonderful selection of telescopes. He's got quite a few in at the moment. Actually, according to his Facebook page, he's super excited because he got a new brand. It's Spectrum Optical Scopes. They might be worth giving him a call and checking out. And then we have our Zoom Rock Room schedule. Hopefully, oh, you did update it.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
Next week, June 3rd, Paul Fagley. Hopefully, we'll have his voice back, or I should say next month, June 3rd. The Klondike Rush, Gold Rush with Paul, as long as he's speaking again. Then we have Geology of York County Parks with Jerry Jones. July 1st, we have the petroglyphs out on the Susquehanna River with Paul Nevin. And the 15th, we have fracking and earthquakes with Joseph Lee.
That's gonna be a cool
All,
show, July 15th. Yep.
yeah, all kinds of fun stuff coming up.
Answer a lot of questions that people have. And for me, next Wednesday, Southern York County Recreation at the Shrewsbury Township Building, 7 p.m. I'll be doing the geology of York County. And then I'm going to Riverland State Park, June the 10th. That's actually a Tuesday night. And 6 o'clock, we're going to walk out to the beautiful overlook. If you've never been, haven't been to Riverlands yet, it's overlooks the Susquehanna River. And there's a couple of really cool geology things between the parking lot and the overview or the overlook. So, and then June 14th, I have another Ollie program. How old is the Susquehanna River? If you're in the New York area, you can join Ollie. It's a great senior citizen program. If you have not heard of it, it's really very attractive. They have a tremendous assortment of programs you offer. I think you join. It's like $50 a semester, if I'm remembering right. And then you take a course. It's like I don't know, $15 or $20, I think, a course. It's all volunteer. We don't get paid anything. So you can check it out at ollie.psu.edu/York. And their catalog and in fact, the summer catalog will be out, I think, pretty soon. So anyway, Of course, the Penn State York campus is one of the ones that's on the list to be cut for Penn State campuses. Uh, I would really hate to lose the Ollie program. It's very strong in York. That's yours, Renee.
Experience Cadorus Outdoors is coming up sooner than I'm prepared for. June 6th and 7th out at Cadorus, we're having our big Experience the Park Day. It's a free or not free. It's music, crafts, food vendors, and then all kinds of outdoor activities, including Jerry Jones there with a fossil hunt. And I'll be on the other side of the park doing either kayak programs or pontoon programs. Haven't decided where I'm landing yet. It, it'll be a fun day out at the park.
Yeah, fun weekend. We
And all
hope.
the proceeds stay within the park and help pay for all of my fun programs. So the more the merrier. Shameless plug.
Yeah, all kind of stuff. Yep. So we hope the weather cooperates really well for that weekend too. So that's the end of our intro. Anybody have anything? Anybody have anything for the good of the cause you want to bring up? I really don't have any accolades or congratulations out to anybody tonight that I know of. I'm just looking over some of our attendees here. Nothing ringing a bell, but had a I had a pretty late weekend this weekend with going to the dirt track races. Both the races I went to wanted to be racing all night, so I got to bed Sunday morning at 12:30, and I got home Sunday night at what time did I get home Sunday night? About 11:30, I guess. So everybody wanted to wreck at the racetrack, so it delays my sleep. I needed my beauty sleep. So okay, I'm going to go on here and start our program. I said this is one I pulled out of the closet because it was just recently done several weeks ago in Waynesboro. I know Mel was there. Think maybe Mel was the only one that was actually in the audience that night. That's in our room tonight. But anyway, Paul talked to me yesterday and about his lack of voice. So this is what I do. This is what I decided to pick. I hope you enjoy it because it kind of includes what I was actually going to talk about next time with uh the new geology of South Mountain. So anyway, so I started I started out this program as you heard me say before about the Brushener crater out in Arizona, meteor crater. It's amazing that this impact did not touch the Welcoming Center. That was amazing that it didn't affect it. That was pretty cool. So thank God it didn't ruin the visitor center there. So anyway, so geologically, we as you know, maybe this might be a review for some. We can break uh, Pennsylvania into what we call physiographic provinces. And again, we're dealing with the Waynesboro South Mountain area, pretty much. So yeah, we have the Appalachian Mountain uh, section with the what we call the folded mountains. You may be able to see that the colors are swig swaggy. That's representing that the rocks are folded, either downwards, upwards, sideways. But the Appalachian Mountains are a great example. That's actually a classic example of folded mountains. And then we have the Great Valley section, which is there's a lot of limestone, a little bit of shale, particularly in the northern part and the western part of the valley. We have some shale, but a lot of it is limestone. This is where Interstate 81 runs up through. Down Virginia and the Maryland, it's known as the Shenandoah Valley. And crossing the Pennsylvania, we're in the Cumberland Valley. And then we turn into the Lehigh Valley further to the east. Both those sections belong to what's called the Ridge and Valley province. Okay. Then we have South Mountain, which is that area right in here. Okay. And depend what state you're in is how they classify where does South Mountain belong. Okay. In the Pennsylvania scheme, South Mountain is a section of the Ridge and Valley. If you go to Maryland, Maryland has South Mountain as a South Mountain province. It's its own thing. Pennsylvania classifies, I should say, with the Ridge and Valley because they all were formed at the same time, and that's the classification. That's why it is the way it is. But as soon as you cross that Mason-Dixon line, you're in the South Mountain province. And then on the east side of South Mountain, we have the Gettysburg Newark Lowlands section, which is a section of the Piedmont. And if you live in northern York County, you live in most of Adams County, and 80% of the Adams County is the Gettysburg Newark Lowlands section. York County, basically from Shiloh north to South Mountain is that section. So anyway, so tonight we're going to talk about the Great Valley section and South Mountain section for the most part. So this is a geological map of Franklin County. Okay, that's where Waynesboro does lie, and these different colors that you can read here represent the rock types. It's a very general map. The Pennsylvania Geologic Survey has a map like this for every county in Pennsylvania. So it don't matter where you live in PA, you can go and search and get your own geological map. So again, you're looking at the Great Valley, like for example, coming in through here, and we have a little bit of the Appalachian Mountains on the left side, and then this, if you want to call it the reddish pink out here, is the South Mountain coming in. Very generally classified rocks, reflecting the provinces and sections that I just showed you. In Adams County, which is the next county to the east of Franklin, here is South Mountain again, the pink, the reds, and then everything else from the brown that I'm pointing across. This is the Gettysburg Newark Lowlands section. This is where the youngest rocks are. These rocks are 150 to 200 million years old. And then in the southeastern corner of Adams County, we have some limestones showing up, which is actually an extension of what we call the York Hanover Valley, where Route 30 runs through York County, 116 toward Hanover, and then heading down toward Frederick. We're still in this limestone valley. But we're not going to talk about much about that other than over here with South Mountain. So if you looked at our world 1.1 billion years ago, this is kind of what we look like. We were a supercontinent was breaking up called Rodinia, down close to the South Pole. Then the mass called Laurentia, that's us. We were not called North America until the next supercontinent split apart that we will get to. So Laurentia was breaking apart um, at least maybe probably 900 million years ago. This is 750 million years ago, roughly. And the red dots is kind of indicating our east coast of where rifting a part of Rodinia was taking place. So we build this timetable over the course of my program. So there's the Rodinia down there about a billion years ago. A billion with a B. And then we had the split up, roughly 750 to 600 million years ago. When I was a small kid, I remember that. Okay. And so here again, here's a picture of Laurentia a little bit later now in time. Okay. And we are getting close to the equator. The yellow line on here, this is the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is what South Mountain is the northern extension of, the Blue Ridge Mountains. So they were located right here. And actually, the Blue Ridge, the oldest rocks in the Blue Ridge, the volcanic rocks were created by the rifting apart of Rodinia. And the probably the most important fact that I really want people to ever remember when I do a program about South Mountain is that here is South Mountain. This is up near Dillsburg. In fact, Dillsburg is right in here. I'm further east, but here comes the mountain, and right down to nothing, right there. That right there, folks, is the northern end of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It don't go any further than York County. It's called White Rocks development. There's actually a housing development on the end of the mountain there called White Rocks. Williams Grove is out to the right. Carlisle's kind of up behind the mountain a little bit. In fact, that mountain out there is the first mountain in the Appalachian sequence. So that's the northern end of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And York County's highest point is actually located, right where my cursor is over here. So anyway, the oldest rock in South Mountain, one of the oldest rocks, I should say, it's called meta basalt. Okay, basalt is a volcanic rock. It forms in the ocean. It makes up our ocean floor today. If you go out and drill in the ocean floor, you're going to find basalt. And the word meta means it's been changed a little bit by heat and pressure. Not a lot, but enough to put the word meta in front of it. So this is my classical piece of meta basalt that I use. And the orange and the greens are voids that used to be gas bubbles that broke, leaving a cavity, and the epidote and the feldspar, the green's epidote, the feldspars, the reddish, filled in the cavities. And it's been cut and polished, this particular rock. It does represent oceanic rifting. In other words, the ocean floor was being rifted apart when Rodinia was breaking apart. And then we have rhyolite. Rhyolite's a continental rifting, equal to the basalt. When continental plates rift apart, it creates the lava. Actually, the magma is granitic, and the lava, when it gets extruded, is then called rhyolite. It's it's the same chemistry as the granite. It just is more lava. You can see some flow lines in here from the lava flows. Again, continental rifting. So in South Mountain, we see evidence of both oceanic rifting and continental rifting going on. 900 to maybe 550 million years ago, I think is the youngest age that we've had. Now, in the old day, in front of rhyolite was the word meta. If you read reports that were done in the 1970s from South Mountain, it was meta rhyolite. Well, the latest research done by Mark Tucker 2 years ago, who remapped um, the southern part of South Mountain in Pennsylvania, looked at the rhyolites and said, they're not changed very much, if at all. We got to drop that word meta. So now I'm getting into the vocabulary change. I need to drop the word meta rhyolite in my vocabulary. So for the most part. Uh, in South Mountain, there's a place called Carball Run Reservoir. Um, it's south of Caledonia, back on the mountain road. There's actually it's actually called District Road, and in the behind the dam at Carball Run is this columnar jointing. This is rhyolite, and what's happened when the lava came out of the volcano, it flowed into water fairly quickly and cooled fairly quickly, creating these 5 and 6 sided joints patterns, as we call them, or columnar joining. Anybody's been to Iceland, and I know Melanie's been to Iceland. These are very, very common over there. Or if you've been out to Devil's Tower out west, that's what Devil's Tower is made up of. It's columnar jointing. So this is the only one actually that I know about and I ever heard about. That's in South Mountain in Pennsylvania. If you drive the Skyline Drive south of Front Royal, you'll see a couple of the first rock outcrops on the Skyline Drive are actually columnar joining going on. And of course, the rhyolite, some of the rhyolite is so fine grained that it was used for making of prehistoric tools. And again, Mark Tucker, in his new interpretation, said that he thinks that the rhyolite uh, originally was almost like an obsidian. And this stuff flint knaps almost like an obsidian. But Mark claims that originally, this this one type of rhyolite, there's like seven different types of rhyolites in South Mountain, but the one that is flint knappable very well and was used for prehistoric tools, he has now interpreted that as a an obsidian. So that's very new stuff. And where are those quarries? It's on Snaggy Ridge. If you ever want to take a nice little day trip, this is open to the public. Uh, it's actually in the Carball Run Preserve, which is making up this whole section here. If you know Caledonia a little bit, Route 30 is to the top of our screen, and the Caledonia Golf Course is just off my slide uh, at the top. And so you would come down 233 and turn onto District Road and come up District Road, and there's a parking lot out here that holds like 8 cars, maybe. And you take about a 3/4 mile walk back the trail onto Snaggy Ridge. And that's where you'll find the pits. And there's also not only pits where they took the railway out and quarried it, but way out the end, let me go back up. Way out here at the end of the ridge, out here around the 1642 marker, are these rock shelters. These are not cave. Well, they're natural. They were not dug up. It's just by the way that the rock has been formed and actually deformed. It's been proven by archaeologists that this is that this was used for temporary housing by people that came here 8,000 years ago to quarry the rhyolite and take it back to their people or for trade. So here's a couple of new interpretation of rocks by Mark Tucker. I actually spent a day with Mark earlier in a very early spring, and he brought some samples along and gave me a good interpretation. This kind of looks like a sedimentary rock. You can see layering in the rock, right? So this is actually volcanic ash. We call it a tuff when it turns to rock, but this is volcanic ash that was falling to the ground, and that's why it has layers to it. So technically, tuff is a sedimentary rock in parentheses. It really isn't sedimentary, but it is. So good evidence of this. Here's a felsic tuff. Felsic means feldspar. So these white uh, rectangles in here and white dots are all feldspar crystals that have been formed in the tuff. Again, volcanic ash. This was not flow. Here's a volcanic breccia. Okay, that means that these rocks in here were blown out of the volcano. It could have been on the in the neck of the volcano, but they were blown out with the eruption and laid into an ash type of thing. So we have a uh, that interpretation now. And Mark has a very interesting theory about about all this. He thinks he thinks that all of this is centered around what's called a caldera, which is a collapsed volcanic uh, cone. And I believe I have a map coming up here soon. But he kind of has he's written an article which has not been published yet. The the State Geologic Survey is being pretty slow in approving his article, but he has classified these volcanic rocks into pre-eruptive rocks as far as pre-eruptive of when this volcano was active, caldera rocks, and post caldera or post collapse rocks. So around Route 30 is where he thinks the caldera may have been, and I'll show you some proof of that in a minute. So this is all new thinking, folks. His map was just published by the State Geologic Survey in 2024. It is online. They can see. And the caldera that we can um, associate with today, of course, is Crater Lake in Oregon. This is a caldera, and this is what may have maybe the Caledonia State Park looked like at one time. Uh, you know, uh, 500 million years ago. Here's Mark's map. Now I know you can't see any detail, but the different colors, of course, show the different volcanic rocks. I'm going to show you a close up in a second of part of this over here, but a caldera is bounded by two faults. So there are two faults. Here's one down here. I'm pointing out this is where Route 30 runs through Caledonia State Park, called the Carball Marsh Creek Fault. And then there's a fault up here. This is partly called the Pine Grove, and there's another name associated. I can't remember what the over here is, but these are the two faults that the caldera was in here, the collapsed volcano. So all these rocks south of the Carball Fault are pre-eruptive volcanics. This is the caldera and the collapse, and these are post-eruptive rocks up here. So here's a close-up of part of Mark's legend over here. This is in this area right here, so you can actually read. And it was very simple back in the 1970s, uh, geologic mapping, because everything was called I can't even say it now. The Catoctin Formation. Catoctin Formation was all volcanic. Basalt, rhyolite, blah, 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 okay. It was all that. But Mark has now, with his detailed mapping, has broken those volcanic rocks into either complexes or members. There's one little section of Catoctin Formation volcanic rock, and it probably is about the size of my desk here. Really, seriously. Uh, so now I got to remember all these names. The new name, the Buchanan Valley Volcanic Complex. There's your breccias. There's your lahars, which are the mud flows. Basalt, rhyolites, okay. Pine Grove Tuff. There's a tuff. Culp Ridge Tuff. Green Ridge. Intrusive. So there's many more chapters to all this volcanic stuff than what the 1970s reports had in it. And things are changed. We have new techniques to mapping and new technologies to decipher things. So this is a whole new learning curve. I just know I need to drop the word concocted and mostly the word meta in front of rhyolite. South Mountain was a producer of native copper in the south end of Pennsylvania. This is There was actually a copper run. This is now on the property of the Michaux State Forest. These mines, many of them were actually on the PH Gladfelder tree farm originally, and then PH Gladfelder, which is a paper company, it used to be a paper company in Spring Grove. It's now a new name. Did some land swaps with the local quarry, and the mines have become members of the Michoud State Forest. So here's a piece of native copper with the quartz. Of course, I can't get by without telling you, my quartz joke. Yeah, that's how a geologist buys his milk in quartz. Anybody can use that if you want to. That's up to you. Here's one of the. It's actually the only mine that has a mine shaft accessible anymore, called the Reed Hill. The state park has done a pretty good job to close this off with covering up with fallen branches and big logs. Uh, they don't want people going into it, although it only goes back into the hillside 20 feet. It's really a very small shaft. But this was actually one of the leading copper districts in the whole country in the 1880s, 1890s, even into the 1920s. Today, a nearby quarry is called the Specialty Granules Quarry uh, in Charmaine, which is just next to Blue Ridge Summit off of Route 16. And the quarry is quarrying the volcanic rocks. So here's what their quarry looks like. It's very well hidden. You cannot see the quarry from anywhere around the territory. And that's the way they like it. It out of sight, out of mind, as they say, right? So this is what it looked like, and we were there last October. So the green color stuff, that's all the meta basalt. High percentage of basalt. Uh, each one of these levels, each one of these walls, vertical walls, is 50 feet. So there's 50, 100, 150 feet, and 200 feet down to the bottom of here. They are permitted to go down 8 levels. That's 400 feet. So they're half as deep as they are permitted at this point to go down. They are actually using the rock for roofing granules. They have I think it's 17 colors that they dye the granules, the rock that's been crushed into different colors for granules for shingles. They also have struck the rhyolite, and that's now being used for like road ballast. Um, so I have 16 here, different colors, 600,000 tons a year they ship. Uh, 75% by trucks, or you'll see the tanker trucks. If you could ever go down Route 16 outside of Waynesboro at Blue Ridge Summit, they have a big yard right along 16 of the tanker trucks that carry the powder or in the tractor trailers. All right, so 540 million years ago, here we go. That's us, Laurentia, and we're heading toward the equator. We're also rotated around 90 degrees from what we are today. And we are moving north, and here's little Laurentia, and we have a continental shelf. We have a continental shelf today off of our east coast, made from erosional material coming off of the continent into the ocean, is what makes up a continental shelf. And we had a small ocean that we called the Octorara Sea, a piece of a microcontinent off coast some miles. Here's the larger Iapetus Ocean, and then we had a volcanic arc chain out further out in the ocean that eventually did collide with eastern North America, and then Africa over here to the right side. So now we're going to get into this continental shelf. We've broken apart. The volcanic activity is over. Maybe the caldera has happened already, and now we're changing our theme to building a stronger continent. So the first thing that happened on our continental shelf was the sand was deposited, into the ocean to start building the continental shelf. And one of my favorite quarries to go to is called Mount Sidonia. It's right west of Caledonia State Park, up on the mountain. That's why I love it. It's a beautiful site. This is all sandstone being quarried. In fact, they don't have to do much crushing because the sandstone, when it weathers, turns back to sand. So it's pretty easy quarrying going on. One fossil that they have in the sandstone with this age called the Antietam Formation, about 500 million years old or so, are these worm tubes called scolithus. And they're pretty plentiful within the Antietam Formation. Okay, so you can find them fairly long in the quarry. Uh, of course, try to get one out 10 feet long is pretty hard to do. But yeah, so there were these marine worms living. And although we have never seen the worm to really officially call it and stamp it of our approval it was a sea worm, we're 98% sure that's what it was. A place called Pool Steeple, near Pine Grove Furnace itself, is sandstone that's been metamorphosed into a rock called quartzite. So the sandstone put under heat and pressure changed to quartzite, a much denser rock. Uh, the layering, you can still see layering in the rock as a sedimentary, although quartzite's metamorphic. So you can see the layering tilted from the left onto the lower right, Pool Steeple. There because the quartzite is durable. And so if you ever hike the Appalachian Trail, you're pretty much walking entirely on quartzite uh, throughout this part of Pennsylvania. And quartzite does make up the higher elevations of South Mountain because it is a hard rock. So even across the valley where Hammond Rocks is over in here, that's all quartzite going on. White Rocks, which is south of Route 30, same thing. This is quartzite, again, providing a nice scenic overview to the west, looking uh, Chambersburg will be to your right here. Hagerstown will be down in this direction. Iron mines were on the west slope of South Mountain because of the geology between the sandstone and underlying limestone. Chemical reaction with groundwater created some iron ore deposits that were not real rich in quality, but back in the 1870s, 1880s, they were doable. Professor at Dickinson College actually found out that there was lignite layers in this pond. It's called Pond Bank. It was an old iron mine. It's on 999 south of Route 30. But within the pond, there's these lignite layers that he actually dated with the pollen that was in the layer, and came out to be Cretaceous age, which is the age of dinosaurs. So that was kind of a little interesting stop one year for our the field conference that we did have. Of course, Pine Grove Furnace, one of only several furnaces that were in South Mountain. Pine Grove Furnace is probably the most famous. And there was another furnace south of Caledonia. This is Caledonia. It's been actually restored. There's some debate about what happened to this furnace after the Confederates burned it down when they came through heading to Gettysburg. Uh, some say it was restarted and reused, and other people say it was actually never rebuilt and reused after the Civil War. But the Michelle and Caledonia have done a great job now putting in a 2 mile walking trail up the hill and down the hill, showing you different phases of iron manufacturing, like the charcoal burns and other things. So, speaking of which, in the iron furnace business, you needed three elements. Obviously, your iron ore. Limestone was used for flux to take out the impurities, and charcoal originally was to make your heat before coke and charcoal and coal came around. They were using charcoal. So to make the charcoal, there were teams of people just like this That was their job. Okay, they would actually deforest maybe 1 acre of forest, take the trees down, cut it into manageable lengths, pile it up like this into a teepee shape, and then they would cover all this up with dirt. And then they would light the inside, and it would smolder. It will not burn. They didn't want it to burn. They wanted it to smolder. 10 to 12 days to slowly burn. If the fire did break through the clay, the dirt on the outside, somebody had to climb the pile and stuff the hole shut with dirt and then go back to sleep. So somebody had to be there 24 hours a day. So it took 10 to 12 days to make 1 acre of charcoal. And this is what the charcoal terrace looked like. Pretty flat. Um, if you kick the soil, it's black. You'll find charcoal laying in the ground. And right here, the main thing. The furnace used 1 acre of wood, charcoal, I should say, in only 24 hours when it was working at its prime. So I, as a charcoal maker, just spent 10 to 12 days up on the mountain making charcoal. I deliver it to you, and the furnace uses that in 24 hours. So there was a lot of charcoal making going on throughout South Mountain. If you ever walk up the pool steeple, you'll pass two of them. One's very noticeable. After you make the first climb up, straight up the hill, and you make that right hand turn, uh, when you make that right hand turn, look on your left side, and there looks like somebody dug out into the hillside, a flat area. That's one of the charcoal terraces, as I call them. The other one's further up the trail, not quite as noticeable. But a professor from Shippensburg uh, did uh, did look at the lidar map, and the lidar actually shows a very distinguishable symbol for charcoal burn uh, on the lidar map. And if I remember this right, there are 1,200 charcoal terraces on this map. Red dot, Pine Grove Furnace. Dillsburg is up here. There's the end of South Mountain. So you can see South Mountain was deforested a number of times uh, to make the charcoal. Incredible to me. I threw this story in because it's kind of neat. Um, through one of my wife's weddings that she did, I met a guy who was writing a history book of South Mountain. Not a geology. It was more of a history, right? So, uh, you know, we actually met in person at the wedding, and then he sent me started to email me some stuff. And one thing he sent me was this picture. He said, "We found some silver in South Mountain," which is possible. We have copper. So he sent me this picture anyway, and it is silver. That's how a silver crystal should look like. Okay, no doubt about that. So one day he invited me to come up, and they were going to take me on the trail where they found this silver. And I invited this gentleman right here. His name was Joe Dagg, out of Chambersburg. Very fine mineralogist that knew his Pennsylvania mineralogy very well and the history of it. And so that's why I had him tag along. And they took us up to this rock laying in the middle of a Jeep trail. It's quartzite. Okay, well, geologically, you shouldn't really have silver in quartzite. So anyway, what Joe's explaining to him that the silver that you just saw the picture of came from the very top of the rock where I'm pointing right there. There is no other silver on this rock anywhere else. So the theory was that a vehicle came up the trail and scraped the bottom of the vehicle on the rock, depositing some of the material off the off the chassis of the car onto that rock, which over time it weathered and formed silver. And what Joe's telling them is that this is not natural. This is put that was man-made. And it's kind of burst their bubble, sort of thing. So, uh, anyway, that's the story of that. Okay, 480 million years ago. Here's North America, and the equator's passing right through us right there. And here's the volcanic islands that I did show you. They are now beginning to collide with the East Coast. We don't feel that effect too much in South Mountain and the Great Valley. So now we talk about the Great Valley. Never been to Penmar Park. I know some people have. Again, a beautiful vista on top of South Mountain. The Great Valley, there's the Appalachian Mountain chain starting out there. Uh, Again, the valley made up of soft rock, limestone shale. So here's what some of the limestone looks like. Sedimentary rock turns into a nuisance for farmers because they can't obviously farm on top of limestone outcrops like this. So now we're developing an ocean. Okay, we go back here. We had the Rodinia and the split up, and now we're working on the ocean, the environment. Things have kind of become stable as far as the breakup and movement. We're still moving north, but now in this age of the Ordovician, late Cambrian age Ordovician, 500 to 440 million years from now, ago, we have the ocean developing. So here's the continental shelf I just showed you that we just built with the sandstone, and the limestone's going to start occurring on top of that as sediment first, and then being glued together by marine animals and by the natural salt water. So there's limestone kilns out in the valley. Because any farmer that had a limestone on his property, he had a limestone kiln. Make his lime. Why not, right? Natural resource. And what started to happen eventually was that farmers began to have a surplus of lime left over at the end of their season of making lime. I got extra left over. So he started to sell it to people that didn't have limestone, which is fine, right? And then the neighboring farmers all got together, said, oh, we all have surplus. Uh, we need to sell it. Why don't we stop farming and open up a limestone quarry and just do our lime only? And that's where the concept of a quarry came from. Was by these conglomeration of farmers coming together saying, I don't need to farm. We'll make lime for everybody else. So these little lime kilns are hidden, out in the valley. So here's the new Franklin Quarry south of Chambersburg. Obviously using this for aggregate, uh, pretty much only for aggregate and road construction. Limestone. Here's some ripple marks on the limestone, telling us that it was very shallow water. There was obviously wave action taking place. A geological map. This is, of course, Waynesboro, you see there. And this darker colored pattern, that's what we call the Waynesboro limestone. Waynesboro has its own rock unit, folks. The Waynesboro limestone, or the Waynesboro formation. And as I said at the night when I did this live in Waynesboro, I asked if anybody knows where the type site for the Waynesboro limestone is. It's actually on Main Street at the cemetery. And you'll pass this wall rock. There's the hammer for scale. That is the type site for the Waynesboro limestone. If I want to see what the Waynesboro limestone is supposed to look like, there's where you go. Okay, so yep, Waynesboro has its own little rock formation. Uh, Over in the west end of the valley, there's a place called the Kaufman's Fossil Site. I found this in an older fossil book of Pennsylvania, and went back and revisited This is down in the Ordovician period. So this is like 450 million years old. It's along a it's along a now abandoned railroad track, and kind of overgrown. The winter time's the best time to go there. Oops. And it does have fossils. Has some bryozoan in the rock. There's some trilobite pieces in the rock. I've had several groups there collecting with the permission of the chicken farmer. Um, yeah, it was a pretty good site to go to. Another fossil that's in the area are called graptolites. Um, they're marine animals. They're not really understood totally. You notice how they have I call them saw teeth on the side. Some are floaters, where they actually floated in the ocean water, and some were dwellers on the bottom. They attached themselves to the bottom and kind of floated and swung with the currents, eating the food that they can eat. But they are a great dating tool. They date the rock pretty exactly to their age. At least on paper, it works out well. Put it that way. So one of the trilobites that's found in the area, the uh, the Bumaxis trilobites, hard to tell the front from the back. They look the same. And the crinoid tops. This is the top of a crinoid, which is a nicknamed underwater a sea lily, but it was really an animal. Had its tentacles reaching out for food. Um, Here's a cephalopod on this limestone, and stromatolites, which are like an algae, a coral. Coral. They actually built reefs. Uh, Stromatolites are somewhat common within the Great Valley. Limestones. These are found actually in a big limestone outcrop um, on a farm right along Interstate 81. I didn't know if it had anything on his rock or not. I was down that area one day doing some work, and we decided to stop in and just ask, and went out and looked in the field and had some cool fossils there. So I said, "Do you mind if I break some of this rock? Take some stuff home?" He said, "Break it all up. Take it all. I don't want it. Get it out of my way." All right, where you have limestone, you have sinkholes. And here's the start of a sinkhole development of course, a farm field, yeah, in the Great Valley. This is a very young subsidence. It's just going to get worse as time goes on, as more water gets in there and makes its way down through. It's going to make those cracks bigger, and eventually it's going to do a big fall further deeper. Here's what's called a solution valley. This valley was made by three sinkholes that have joined together, and we call it a solution valley. This is up near Newville, between Chambersburg and Carlisle. Of course, all this is related to caves. There are some beautiful caves in the Great Valley. Obviously, down south, that's where the Shenandoah Valley. That's where you have the Skyline Cavern and um, Endless Caverns is down there. The Wares Cavern, the Ray Cavern are all in the basically the same rock as we have up here in York in Pennsylvania. So the Needy's Cave is kind of a little bit south of Waynesboro, very close to the um the Buttonwood Nature Center property actually. Tomstown Spring, very close to the contact with the South Mountain Rocks. But they've had this running spring for many years. It's a community drinking fountain. That people come in obviously and get water. 12 gallons a minute. That's a pretty good flow. And the highest elevation in Franklin County is Big Mountain, 2,408 2,458 feet above sea level. With the Appalachians and it was kind of what we're moved to now is the Appalachian Mountains. So, and the again the ocean environment. The word orogeny, what happened here is where the volcanic islands did collide with North America. It may have caused a little bit of deformation in South Mountain, but not much at all. So within the Appalachian Mountains, this is a very quick chapter. Um, as we've talked about before, during the Devonian period, this is when life was at its max in the ocean. Anybody who was living in the ocean was living right now in the Devonian. The bryozoans, the corals, the crinoids with the tops, the brachiopods, the plesiopods, trilobites, gastropods, cephalopods, and late in the Devonian, there's actually some wood. Uh, does show up occasionally in several of our fine marine fossil sites. You might find a piece of fossilized wood. That's not rare. It's not real common, but it's not rare either. So another orogeny that's about ready to hit us 270 million years ago. It's called the Alleghanian orogeny. This is Africa and North America coming together to help form the supercontinent called Pangaea. This is what it looked like before. Had a subduction zone under Africa, and then the two came together, and it pushed and shoved our crust dramatically. The example that people use is that our crust has gotten pushed 50 miles to the northwest due to this collision. So the rocks that we now see, like in the Great Valley outside of Waynesboro, may have really originated down around Baltimore. So the Allegheny orogeny is what did most of our folding, and faulting, movement of the rock. So that's where the Allegheny orogeny comes into play right here during the Pennsylvanian period and the Permian period. So in our Rhodanian and on this satellite photograph, you might be able to find a geologic fault in South Mountain. Here's South Mountain right here. Into the South Mountain at Dillsburg right there. This is down in Maryland where South Mountain breaks into the Catoctin Mountains and South Mountain. There's actually two ridges down there. But here's the fault right there. Notice how this side comes down, ends right there. Oh, over here it is. It's about a 4 mile difference where the north side of South Mountain has slid further to the west than the southern side. This is Route 30. Remember I said earlier the Carball Marsh Creek Fault goes right through here. And you can see the Appalachian Mountains over here. See how squiggly and twisted they are from the folding of the Allegheny orogeny? Uh, the ridges have been folded back on themselves. This is kind of a neat map with a light and radar showing you the displacement of South Mountain. There's the fault coming right through here. Here's the western edge of South Mountain stopping, and here it is down here. Jack's Mountain Tunnel, uh, which you really legally can't really be there. Uh, but there is a fault right there coming down through. This is the metabasalt and the quartzite. So the quartzite is thrown up and over the metabasalt. Other end of the tunnel, all quartzite. Look at the folding in the rock. It's really hard to follow the layers after here. Here's a layer. Here's one coming up here. So this just shows you the intensity of folding and faulting within, South Mountain generally. And if we could look at South Mountain, if I could pull out cut into South Mountain and pull straight up, um, This is kind of what South Mountain as a whole would look like, kinda. Okay, it's what we call an overturned anticline, where the anticline used to be an arch straight up, but movement kept pushing it. In this case, to the right, pushed it over the top, pushed it further out. So now it's like laying like this, and that's how South Mountain is, along with some smaller folds within the big fold. Yes, it is complex. This is a geological map. Shady Grove. I-81 will be coming down through over here. Again, showing you faults in the Great Valley. All the black lines are faults. So again, even during the Allegheny orogeny, the Great Valley did get moved and shoved and create faults. So now we get to the later stage of our story. We have now formed Pangea, and which is where Alfred Wagner's theory of plate tectonics, well, actually his theory of continental drift, kind of started in his mind. And I've already proven to you now, or actually maybe I suggested to you that we did have a Rodinia as an earlier supercontinent. So why not? And that's what somebody asked. We had Pangea. Somebody asked, "Well, why didn't we have a supercontinent before Pangea?" And they started to do research, and indeed, there's Rodinia. And now if you go on the internet and look for uh, past supercontinents before Rodinia, I think there's five listed now, going back to 3.2 billion years old. So there's been a series of supercontinents come together, they break apart, they come together, they break apart in a cycle. So on the East Coast, this is what we call the rift basins. This is where Pangea was trying to rip apart. Basically, 200 million years ago, when Pangea decided it was time to go. And we are in the Gettysburg Basin uh, here in 14. We join up with the Newark Basin, but these are all areas where the crust was trying to yank apart, left and to the right. It did not pull apart, obviously. Here, it pulled apart out here off the East Coast, called the Baltimore Canyon in our area. So we kind of stayed where we are today. So let's go here, build our up again. There we have the Allegheny orogeny. Here we have rifting in the Mesozoic era, which is, of course, also the age of the dinosaurs taking place in the Mesozoic era, rifting apart of Pangea. So we were getting a lot of sand into this basin, Rift Valley. Think of the Red Sea. The Red Sea is the modern day analogy of a Rift Basin. So there was a lot of sediment being washed in from both sides. There was lots of rainfall, sandstone, shale being formed. The rock has not been deformed by any continental collisions yet. So the way it's land tilted upper right to lower left, that's the way it was laid down. I think this is about 20 degrees. It's dipping upper right to lower left, right there. There is a place on the east side of South Mountain against the Gettysburg Newark Lowlands section. If you know where that is, you can stand and put your foot on rocks of South Mountain that are, this is make it easy, 550 million years old, and put your other foot on rocks that are 200 million years old. Okay, and that's called the border fault. It's still not believed by everybody that there actually is a border fault. I I'm on the side that yes, there is a border fault, but I did that at this intersection of Town Hill Road and Berry School Road up near York Springs. So right through right through here is a fault going 550 million year old rocks to 200 million. Of course, that was kind of a comical thing, but aren't laughing because you're falling asleep. But one fossil we find is stromatolites, as I showed you earlier, but these also lived in the Mesozoic era. Stromatolites are fascinating animals, like a coral reef. They are the oldest fossil that has made it through every extinction that we've had. Some of the stromatolites down in Australia on the Great Barrier Reef, are dated at 3.1 billion years old. Uh, and they're still living today, folks. So this is a stromatolite from Fairfield, Adams County. That's roughly, again, was rounded off to 200 million years old. And of course, the dinosaurs. We did have some dinosaurs roaming through this Gettysburg, Newark lowlands section. Uh, uh, this is called a grawlator. It's a longer footprint this way than the Atriopus, a little bit shorter. Grawlator did walk on his legs. He was bipedal. And the Atriopus, this is actually his handprint right there. Sometimes the Atriopus did walk on all fours with his hands and feet. And sometimes he just walked on his feet. So there's several sites in Adams County, York County, and further east to Bucks County. What we also have? Montgomery County out there, and where dinosaur tracks have been found. This is what we think the Grawlator looked like. He's about 6 feet high and about 8 feet long when you go from his head to his tail. So here's the rifting. This is the geologic map uh, in southeast Pennsylvania. The green is the Rift Valley. Here's South Mountain. There's the Great Valley coming up here. And what I'm telling you, when Pangea tried to split apart, it was trying to do that. If this Rift Valley would have been successful, we that live on the east of this, um, in much of York County, would be with Africa today. Most of Lancaster County would be with Morocco also. So don't ever say geology never affected you. So last but not least, after the rifting, we had lots of weathering and erosion taking place. Uh, we do know of several places where specialists that know weathering and erosion have done work. They have estimated that, for example, in Lancaster County, at the Peckway Silver Mine, that area has lost 4 miles of crust over their heads in the last 150 million years. All that's been washed down the river, making up the continental shelf. And of course, the last chapter is the Ice Age up here. We did not have glaciers in our part of the world down here, but 50 miles north of Harrisburg and 50 miles northwest of Harrisburg is kind of the general line of the southern extent that the ice did come. We had the climate like Hudson Bay area did. Yes, we had lots of permafrost going on and frosting and thawing going on. So speaking of which, Monterey Peak block field up in near Blue Ridge Summit. If you walk up the mountain, you'll find these block fields where the quartzite used to be all one big rock outcrop up here. It's been broken apart by weathering and erosion and is being transported slowly downhill. Raven Rock Block Stream. This is again a quartzite blocks that have been broken off the bedrock up here, and they've been moved downstream. There's actually a little stream under these rocks. If you're really quiet, you can hear the water running. And the only earthquake that happened in this region, I just threw this in for the fun of it. The only earthquake that ever happened in this region was right here, south of Fayetteville, uh, in 2013. This is actually the record from 4 different stations. Soldier's Delight, Maryland, Millersville, Franklin Marshall College. Uh, I'm not sure what that and New Jersey. SPA is up near State College. Anyway, 2.1 Richter scale, 2013, uh, west of the Penn National Golf Course. So that brings the show to the end. I always have a blast talking to my Zoom rock room people. And I give everybody a flower to take home with you. There you go. If you want to ask me a question or whatever, help yourself. Hope you learned a little bit.
I have one question I found kind of curious. When you talk about the caldera, you said like the pre-caldera is to the south, the caldera, and then the post-caldera to the north. I I don't know. I don't quite get that visually how that would occur. You would think it would be kind of concentric around the caldera, but
Well, remember, this has been folded and
okay,
folded too. It's been moved. So it got all out of proportion
okay.
too. See, it's a brand new, it's a brand new theory, and Mark's Mark's a little quiet about it. He's a little tentative to get out there and talk to big groups about it because he's afraid he's going to get shot down um, with his new thinking. Uh, but if we're at, I don't know if it's done yet or not. I hope, but Caledonia State Park office we put in a volcanic rock display. We actually put it in like in February, but they were going to put Mark's map up behind the showcase, and last time I knew they didn't do that yet. But that's how the state works, you know. You got to schedule. You got to tell them this year to have it done by next year. Let me put my other glasses on so I can read. Renee, are you still there? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm here. Just being slow, like the rest of the state workers.
Oh, well, you're an exception. No, and
I
as far as I know, there's no timeline on the caldera. He did send me the article that he wrote, but he said don't share it with anybody. And I don't think there's really a timeline in there that I remember. But that's a good question. Maybe I need to read it again. But
but it
yeah,
was it was when we were still Laurentia, not it was like 500 million years ago, not
yeah, it
200,
was it
right?
was probably four to five
Okay,
hundred million.
there you go.
What does he have to go through the? Uh, um, let's say
Rings of fire.
Mark did the map I showed you, and that was reviewed by four professional geologists. Most of them are professors at universities. They had to give their blessing on it. And like I said, Mark has now written this article, which he has told me that has been on the state geologist's desk for over a year. She needs to approve it. She needs to actually have people within her office review it, and then it would be accepted and be published into something online that you can actually all read. Uh, why the state geologist has hold on to it for over a year, I don't know. But so it's a very interesting theory, and I uh, I like Mark's thinking. If perhaps they disagree, that's a possibility. Although if the maps are already out there, this accompanying text needs to go with the map so people understand what's going on. So you can take any area that you like and just do a little geologic report about it. So anybody in our room that wants to pick on your backyard geology, as I call them, knock yourself out. You know, I've done one. I've done one for Perry County because we have a few Perry Countyans hanging around here. Okay. Yeah, no problem, Dwayne. Thanks for being here. I'm dealing with a. I'm dealing with an individual. I know he's not in here because he didn't get an invite. But I'm dealing with an individual who thinks he's making himself rich by breaking the quartz boulder down and full of gold in Metro York area. And I haven't met him personally. I probably will not. He showed me a lot of pictures, texting, and what he's what he's calling gold is actually all mica. And I keep telling him that, and he keeps saying, "No, it's metal. It's metal." And I just about the other night, I just about texted him back and said, "Well, you apparently know more than me, so carry on." But I erased it. I was a good boy, Renee.
Mhm.
Hey Renee, the Iron Mine stop we did, the first Iron Mine stop we did on
Mhm.
tour, the log cabin.
Yeah.
Paul, I had Paul Nevin up there last week, and he dated the cabin about 1840,
Okay.
based on the saw marks and things. Okay, any other questions? Because that's going to be about it. 8:22. We're like on right on schedule. So I hope you enjoyed that little impromptu change in the schedule. Sorry about the change. Uh, oh yes, and one thing I did want to, I haven't heard anything about it for a couple weeks now, but there's a state representative that wants to change the state fossil. They want to take it. They want to drop the fake ops trial right now and put a fish fossil in, and
How do you feel about that, Jerry?
not good, not good. I actually emailed the representative and said, well, it's not really a fake ops no more since the fake ops got reclassified into a Eldridge ops. So it really isn't a fake ops any longer anyway, but you guys just never changed the name. Um, but
I look at it as they're bringing attention to fossils.
well,
Maybe
yeah,
it's getting someone out there interested in fossils.
yeah.
Got to look at the bright side.
I put garbage out every week. I'm just bringing attention to garbage. Oh well, no problem, no problem, Paul. Glad to do it. Anyway, so yeah, I don't,
Feel better, Paul.
I haven't seen anything else with that in the last couple of weeks. So just might want to just watch the social media or whatever. See if that does come about. All right, 2 weeks. Paul Fegley will be here to make you rich for Klondike. Okay, and happy Memorial Day to everybody. And let me see. We'll see you before the eco event coming up. So okay, Renee, take us out of here.
Well, hopefully everyone enjoys the more rain that's coming in. Enjoy the sunshine when it comes back out. Hopefully we have a great Memorial Day weekend. Have fun.
All right, we'll see everybody.